afternoon. We're here at the Kootenai Brown Pioneer Village. Today is the afternoon of Wednesday the 21st of May 2014. My name is Farley Wuth. I'm the curator of the Kootenai Brown Pioneer Village, and we're here with Norm Walker, who has served overseas with the peacekeeping troops with the Canadian Armed Forces, and he's been on 3 international expeditions. So we have a series of questions in honor of the Canada's military history to ask him. Norm, what military units did you serve with during the peacekeeping forces?
Well, I joined the 2nd Battalion Queen's Own Rifles of Canada.
Right.
And was stationed in Calgary, Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1968 I was posted to Victoria, BC, to the 1st Battalion, the Queen's Own Rifles of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1971 our unit was disbanded and we became the 3rd Battalion, Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry.
Mm-hmm. We
were part of the 1st Division, which is the Red Patch, 1st Brigade, and I already gave you the names of my regiments.
Right. Wow. So what sort of training did you receive with your military service?
Well, as an infantryman, all our skills were designed as in a theater of war. And at that present time, our enemy during the Cold War was the Russians. And our tactics were based on Second World War advance to contact, and also with the nuclear threat, because we all lived under the threat of a nuclear attack.
Keep on going.
Okay, so when we were in Calgary, our training, after we graduated recruit training, we were posted to the battalion, and then we did our regular infantry training, which is in a rifle platoon, you have to master all the weapons of the platoon, and you have to be able to do the job of the next man above you, okay? Then we also were trained in re-entry, rescue, first aid, nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare, because if we were bombed, we would be withdrawn to the mountain area or in the foothills, and then we would re-enter the city of Calgary and help civil authorities establish law and order, rescue civilians, and administer first aid, set up cook kitchens, decontamination centers, and try and put our city or our communities back together. Wow. And during the Cuban Missile Crisis, we were warned that the moment that had happened, we were put on full alert, and as riflemen, we were issued 5 rounds each in our magazine. We were given a password, and we were instructed that if anybody didn't have the password, we were to shoot them. But with 5 rounds, we didn't figure that was sufficient to put anybody down, okay? But in the end, everything worked out all right. Our mess hall was open 24 hours a day, and all the married men were required to bring all their kit into camp, okay? Because we were on a moment's notice to move.
Wow, that's quite the story and all that. So. And
then in 1967, we were posted to Cyprus as part of the United Nations Peacekeeping Force. And there we did a 3-month workup and a 6-month tour in theater, and then we were brought home on leave.
Right.
And then after I had my leave, I was posted to Sarcy Barracks, where the Armoured Corps was, which was the Lord Strathcona Horse at that time. And I was, at that time, I was a non-commissioned officer, a full corporal. So my job was to train young recruits to be corporals, because I had experience overseas. And then I was posted to Victoria. Then while I was in Victoria, we were sent back overseas again, okay? And then that was another 9 months duration. And then during that period, we were posted up to the Arctic on Resolute Island and Ellesmere Island. And that was when, just after the oil tanker Manhattan had gone through the Northwest Passage.
Right.
And Prime Minister Trudeau was our Prime Minister. So we were sent north in platoon groups, okay, to remap the north. And we would go on 14-day long-range patrols, 7 days out, 7 days back. We were on combat rations all the time. We were not, we had to carry all our garbage with us. We didn't have to worry about water because we just drank the local water out of the streams and that. And we had live ammo for protection against the polar bears. We were not allowed to fraternize with the Eskimos, okay? We did meet a mounted policeman in Resolute, and he had been there for about 5 years, and he didn't know when he was coming out because he was on a punishment posting.
Oh my goodness.
And then when we came back from there, then we were put in on 3-year tour with NATO, which is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and we were a rapid reaction force of about 5,000 men who were to be deployed at a moment's notice to Norway, because they figured if the Russians were to come across Western Europe, they would encircle Norway, which would cut off all the Scandinavian countries. We had another brigade in eastern Canada that would go to Greece, the southern tip of the continent.
Right.
But ours was mainly to the north, so wherever there was snow in the world, we were always gone, always on scheme, as we call it. And another thing I'd like to mention too is how good the CPR was to us, because at that time, as riflemen, we were only making $89 a month, 3 meals a day, okay? And we had to send money, if we were overseas, we had to send money home to our mothers, okay? We're not allowed to draw all our pay, so we'd only have $25 a month, so the rest would go either into a bank account or to your wife if you were married, or we'd send it back to our moms, okay? Now, while we were in that training period, we'd have a month's leave every year. Well, the Canadian Pacific Railroad would come to the barracks where all the single men were, and after we had been paid by our paymaster, okay, the Canadian Pacific would sell us a one-way ticket home for full fare, and for $1 we could get the return ticket back, okay? But we were required to buy our meal tickets. And the first time I went home to see Mom and my dad, which was in London, Ontario at that time, that's where I was originally from, the conductor, most of the old CPR guys on the trains were World War II vets. So when they saw us get on the train with our uniforms, because we didn't wear them, and we were all carrying a brown shopping bag, okay? And these old vets, they knew what was in the shopping bag, okay? So they'd clear out the passengers out of the car, and they'd fill us up there. And this old guy said to us, he said, okay, there's a bathroom down there, there's a bathroom down here. He said, I don't want to catch any of you guys out of this car. I'll come and get you when it's time to go for your meals. So by the time we got to Winnipeg, we were out of liquid refreshments. So we all got off the train to go to the hotel and replenish our stock, but we missed the train.
Oh no.
So we had to tell the station agent or whoever was in charge, so they put all our baggage off at Red Lake, Ontario, and we picked it up the next day. We always traveled on the Dominion, but the CPR was very good to the ex-servicemen.
Wow.
You hear a lot of bad stories about the CPR, but they were good.
Well, this is one time that they came through with good service and good arrangements and all that. That's fantastic.
For us it was.
And it's quite the story too. So that's fantastic.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So what was the food like when you were
Well,
in the military?
In the barracks, okay, and on concentration, which would be in Wainwright or Suffield, it was excellent, okay? Breakfast would consist of cold porridge, hard-boiled egg, and some bacon. But I remember this one night we were going out on a night patrol. This was when we were young recruits.
Right.
And the sergeants woke us up, and they said, "Get up." And it was so dark you couldn't see yourself. Okay, so we were hanging on to one another's webbing, and we were following the sergeant, and the corporal was counting us through to make sure that exact number, because if there was more than what should be there, then theoretically they were the enemy. So then when we got down into this coulee, they had some camp stoves going, and they said, "Take out your mess tin." So we took out our mess tin. They poured coffee, sugar, and milk in there, and then in the other mess tin, they put a piece of bread, 2 fried eggs, and another slice of bread. And I turned to my buddy and I said, "Boy, this is good. We're getting a snack before we hit the trail." But we didn't eat again for another 24 hours. And to this day, if I was to honestly tell you what I had 24 hours later, I know it was roast beef and gravy and that, and it was all in one mess tin. If I had to honestly tell you what it was, I couldn't, because I can't remember. I was so hungry.
Yeah. Yeah, you get hungry after
Yeah.
working like that for a full day and
Yeah.
not eating. So.
Well, you're young and we're still growing.
Yeah.
And none of us were dewormed, you see.
Quite the story there too. So, what were some of your more memorable experiences, positive or otherwise, from serving overseas in the peacekeeping troops and all that? So,
The first and foremost thing, and it can't be overrated, is your buddies. I was a non-commissioned officer, a platoon sergeant. I learned that whatever my men did, or whatever happened to them, I was held responsible for them, okay? And I never had to get physically cruel or kick anybody in the butt. They were excellent. And all of them were from the eastern provinces, like New Maritimes, okay? And they were real good guys. And we were all on a first name basis, because I wasn't born a sergeant. My name was Norm, so they called me Norm, okay? And that was one of the most enduring. Like, I can close my eyes and I can see the guys, and I remember all their names. I can tell you all their names, and I see them every year at my reunion. But like the non-commissioned officers and the riflemen, they did the bulk of the work in no man's land. The officers were employed in more of a political or administrative role, okay? And then the warrant officers, okay, they were our resuppliers, okay?
right.
Now, then another impressionable thing was the refugees, because the people that were run out of their homes, like in ethnic violence, which it was, families are intermarried, and they're very passionate over there about their beliefs. So families are split, and you must remember that we were only 20, 19, 18. You had to be 18 to go overseas, okay? And we had a grandma and a grandpa at home. We had a mom and dad. We had a brother and sister at home. And we saw these poor people. And they, like, when they saw us, they thought we were Americans, but then they found out we were Canadians. But the thing of it is that they thought we were gods. You know what I mean? Because we were so affluent with food, okay, and what we required to keep us in the field. Okay? And we did do a lot of humanitarian work in our own little areas that was never ever publicized or recognized, okay? And then another thing was the stress and the pressure, okay? Because I was 21 when I went overseas, and when I came home, my hair was gray. I was a platinum blonde because of the stress. And I did a lot of night patrols. And I took the night patrols and the most dangerous routes of the night patrol because I was the commanding officer of the outpost. You cannot delegate a rifleman or somebody else to do that and expect the men to respect you. And you don't earn respect by enforcing rules or being a disciplinarian. You do it by example, okay? And that's, Martin's Mound was my worst place of all. And now I suffer, and that was my first tour of duty. And I had 2 more tours after that, plus another 10 or 12 year career in the military, okay? And I suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, and I get all my I'm well cared for by the DVA and the local medical staff, but I also have a little dog, a Yorkshire Terrier. Now, it can't be overestimated how valuable or how important these pets are, because I'll dream sometimes at night, and I'm on a night patrol, and it's dark, it's black, and I'm scared. I know I'm scared. I want to get out of there, but I can't get out of there. I know I can wake up, but I can't wake up. And my little dog that sleeps by the bed, he jumps up on the bed. Him jumping up on the bed and landing on the bed, he wakes me up. And then I can feel him against my back. And then I wake up and I can go back to sleep. And he's brought me out of it. And if I'm at home, something triggers me on TV or in the paper, he'll come and jump up on my lap and he'll stay with me. And I can scratch him, I can pet him, he'll lick my face, I can talk to him, and him and I go for long walks. And that is an after effect of my service to my country that the government has difficulty recognizing. And then when we have to go to Veterans Affairs and ask for some more help, we get angry, we get frustrated, and we don't bother anymore, we go away. It took me 40 years to get them to recognize my problem. And then when they did take care of me, but it was for 5 years I was in treatment in Calgary to get through it, and I'm still not better. I'm on medication and counseling. And this is an after effect going overseas. And what happens is you either become a drug addict or you become an alcoholic. I was a workaholic. I always have to have something to do to keep my mind, because it never leaves you.
Keep your mind occupied.
See, when I go home, I'm going to have to go and sit someplace quiet in my safe place. I'm going to have to try and do something with my hands. I have a hobby, and I fish, but that's more of a distraction than a pleasurable outlet. That's the way that it is for us.
Because you saw lots of traumatic things overseas, and it was bound to have an impact on you. Fear.
Like, just imagine you're in charge, and you got to say, okay guys, we're going to do this, and you're crapping your pants, okay? You're
scared,
You got to swallow that, and you got to take the lead, okay? And it's related to physical pain, emotional, and mental pain. My head hurts me all the time.
Because the things you had to go through and the things you saw and things like that, and so it's no wonder there's emotional and health care or health issues afterwards and all that. So.
Well, I asked them if it was mental health when I was there, and they wouldn't give you an answer. But that's exactly what it is. And it's the old adage again, when they say, the more you do, the less somebody else does. So the more responsibility you can handle, the more they load on you,
Yeah.
okay? It never changes.
Yeah.
There's two ways to get ahead in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Work hard and keep your nose clean,
Mm-hmm.
or kiss bum. You can put that in the tape too. That's right.
Okay, next
And
Okay.
I was in the old military.
Mm-hmm.
There was no women. The only women we ever saw was the nursing sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
So following your retirement from the military service, were you involved in the Royal Canadian Legion?
Yes, I joined the Royal Canadian Legion in 1970, I believe it was, 71.
Mm-hmm.
I went on Remembrance Day with my uniform on,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And there was World War II vets there.
Right.
And it was in a Mennonite community in Manitoba.
Okay.
It was where they didn't have a wet bar,
Mhm.
but they did have a back room with a bottle. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so the World War II vets grabbed a hold of me,
Mm-hmm.
took me in there, and we sat down and had a drink.
Mm-hmm.
They pinned the Legion pin on my jacket,
Mhm.
and that's how I was introduced to the Royal Canadian Legion.
Wow.
And I've held every position in the Legion
Mm-hmm.
except president.
Right. Yeah.
I want the younger people to be the presidents.
Right. So Norm, you also had a story about a military buddy of yours that you caught up with after an absence of 40 years.
DJ and I, his name is Donald Joseph White.
Mm-hmm.
His nickname was DJ.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Newfoundlander.
Right.
And the sun shone and set on him.
Mm-hmm.
And I would give my right arm to see all the guys again if I could.
Mm-hmm.
But it took me 40 years to find DJ.
Mm-hmm.
DJ and I were on a long range foot patrol one day.
Mm-hmm.
It was early in the morning. And when we got down in this coulee, they opened up on us with a machine gun.
Right.
Okay, now we were in dead ground, so the rounds were going over our head and to our right, because
Mm-hmm.
we could see them hitting the dirt, we could hear the ricochets. So we were going to turn around and go back up to where they were, like confront them,
Right.
but we decided to stay down. We worked our way through the rocks,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and up to the other side of the coulee.
Mm-hmm.
Now, our rules of engagement at that time were, we had a fully loaded magazine, but we were not allowed to put a round up the spout.
Mm-hmm.
We could fire in self-defense
Mm-hmm.
if one of us was hit, or in the defense of other UN troops. So we weren't hit. So once we got up there, we sat on a rock, smoked a cigarette,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And while we were smoking the cigarette, I called my second in command, told him to get the light machine gun crew ready
Mm-hmm.
and move them out about 1,500 yards so that they could give us covering fire if we had to come back under fire.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other rifleman was on the radio net back to company headquarters to alert the quick reaction force. And then the other rifleman, he was on the binoculars watching our situation. So the Turkish Cypriots, which were the ones that fired on us, they sent a rifleman out,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted us to go back and meet their leaders, but I told them if they wanted to meet anybody, they could come and see us. We weren't going there.
Mm-hmm.
So by that time, the situation had quelled down, but a report was written up, and it was sent all the way back to the United Nations in New York to debate
Mm-hmm.
the opening of fire on United Nations troops, because we had freedom of movement in no man's land. Okay?
Mhm.
And they were not allowed to do that. But they were trying to create an incident.
Mm-hmm. And so you caught up with your friend after.
Yeah,
After
I was at
40.
a reunion about 5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and a friend who knew us both put us in contact. And what happened there is we had been looking for each other for almost 40 years,
Mm-hmm.
and we had given up.
Mm-hmm.
We had checked the Legion lost trails.
Mhm.
We'd gone to all the reunions we thought they would go to,
Mm-hmm.
and this friend put us in contact. So we call each other every year on Remembrance Day, Christmas,
Mhm.
special occasions, see how we're doing.
Mhm.
He's in Vancouver, and I'm in Cowley, Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
He's coming out this summer to see me,
Oh, great.
so we'll have a few beers together.
Sounds fantastic. So have you ever revisited some of the places that you were serving overseas in the military? Have you gone back in peacetime or on your own to revisit some of these places?
I would like to, but the world is too dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And then the only way I'd go back there now if there was 125 of us and we all had rifles.
That's right. Secure your own safety and all that, so.
But there is one thing to say though,
Mm-hmm.
no matter where we went in the world,
Mhm.
okay, as soon as people found out that we were Canadians
Mm-hmm.
and what our fathers did in the Second World War in Holland
Mhm.
and Italy with the charitable acts,
Mm-hmm.
as soon as they know you're a Canadian, because right away they think you're an American,
Right.
because we look and talk like them.
Mhm.
But once they know you're a Canadian, their whole attitude, their whole demeanor changes. Because we do, wherever we have been in the world to try and bring peace,
Mhm.
we have not established a base
Mhm.
and we have not claimed that land as ours,
Mhm.
except where our people are buried in the military cemeteries.
Mm-hmm. Well, Norm, we'd like to thank you for your contributions to the Canadians' military history and for telling us about your service overseas and in Canada. We commend you for your work and thank you very much for telling us about it this afternoon. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So, thanks very much.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Carol.
Yeah,
that's great.
yeah, you did a great job.
You did.
You had a
Fantastic.
good conversation.
You are
Yeah.
fantastic.
Well, what they did to me when, like, I was a sergeant, okay?
Mhm.
And they didn't wanna release me, but they couldn't post me to a trade
Mhm.
other than, like I was an infantryman.
Right.
Mhm.
So what they did is they sent me back to school to do public speaking, okay? And then I was a recruiting sergeant for 2 years. And I went all the way across Canada. And I had to talk to parents,
Right,
I had to talk to high school kids,
right.
and I had to be in the manpower centers,
Yeah.
okay? And I was lucky
Okay.
enough to take 125 recruits from starting in Vancouver all the way across to Cornwallis. But I had to take my release, that was the only thing you could do for me.
Wow.
Because they can't take your rank away from you.
No,
No,
no.
that wouldn't be right either, but.
Well, obviously, your public speaking is obvious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're a good public
You're a
speaker
very
too, so.
good speaker.
But when I go to the children, I don't tell them, I try
About
to,
these things,
the
yeah.
worst, no, I don't. I think last year I talked to them about peace.
Yeah.
Okay, because when remember, like I told the kids, I said, during the Second World War, Winston Churchill used to do that.
Right,
V for
yeah.
victory, okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
And the hippies used to go like
This,
this.
yes,
Okay,
I
peace.
know.
Yeah.
So those were the first people we established contact with when we were overseas as little kids.
Uh-huh.
So we'd zap them with that, eh? Well, pretty soon it was a contest to see who could give each other. And then we were giving them our Smarties
Yeah,
and our hard
Oh,
candy.
Yeah,
And then we got to meet their parents and
Yeah.
see. So,
wow.
so work and all that, so.
no, I won't tell you a war story is not gonna.
Yeah.
Well, I don't
Okay,
think
Norm,
they
can I just finish up
understand.
with you here?
Yeah.
I think we should go finish the tea.
Yeah, I'm just finishing up. Thanks, Norm.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me. yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
But you can have this, but I'm taking that back.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Because if I may
Yeah.